you are not doing read one literature and summarize it. So there's not literature review. So then after that, you have to mention another researcher, B, and also researcher E. Is it, and, oh, yeah, good. Okay. Then I add one more. Because RZ, I add one more T. BT also agree to RZ contribute to certain thing, but Z look into T. Okay, and this researcher do not agree with T. Can you see? It means that you're not only reporting. Please don't fall into this interesting gap. Literature review not critical enough. What do you mean by critical enough? Means that you do not just only report and report and report and report. Remember that. You must have some argumentative statement there. Any question you'd like to raise before I move on? Not only variables, sorry, I just give example of the variables. You can talk about, oh, this person used this method of statistic analysis, that person used another statistic analysis.
Or it could be a different opinion.
Yes. Sorry? Yes, you're analyzing and synthesizing.
So can you yourself put in say why they've gone away this way or that one?
More towards like in the area of discussion. I will encourage my student, whatever you want to say, okay, keep it to yourself first, and then during discussion, then you give your opinion. So over here, you can give a very little of your own conclusion, not our opinion. But I always encourage my students that each of the statement that you write, to make it more concrete, you should have at least a literature to support, if possible. But it's not each of the statement you must have. I say it is better.
What I'm trying to say is, your opinion must be based on the literature.
Yes, for example, just now I mentioned that this one and this one, so they're not looking into that one. So it must contribute to your research. That's why in my research later on, so I will look into that area. That's why during the needs of study, I always encourage during the proposal defense or during the YWA, I always encourage, but doesn't mean they will follow. A lot of students, they're very fantastic one. Friend focus, oh my God, okay. Very interesting case. Have you seen before focus group, they tell me what, Okay, I already mentioned a minimum of 30 students. Then during proposal defense, right, they tell me focus group. When the reviewer asks, how many people they have gone through focus group? 5. Oh, pengsan terus. Have you seen before? I already mentioned million times.
What do you mean by focus group?
Focus group study, how many samples?
I see, okay.
For the, what is that called? Before you do the pilot test and develop your questionnaire. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is that, what did I trying to say here? I cannot remember. Sorry, what's the question that you asked us now? I think you asked something, right? I want the question. Okay, never mind. I'm talking about is, okay, so you can summarize your own, according to variables. I always ask my students to do like this for the slide. There are many areas that the research has been done. List out the areas that what has been done. For example, let's say you talk about the culture orientation towards intention to purchase. All right, the researcher will say that, oh, they are looking into, okay, for example, they look into the demography of influence the purchase intention. Okay, another, what are the studies? A, 2011, B, okay, sorry, B, what year? Then after that, what year? C, what year? D, what year? You group everything together. So at least during your proposal defense, or when I'm the reader, so I would make my life easier. I know that the students actually already try to synthesize. Okay, they really understand the subject matter, so they're able to group it together. One, maybe for example, they look into the behavioral side, not the intention. Okay, and also maybe they look into the price. Could be they look into the perception. Maybe they look at also in the area of attitude themselves. It could be. Or it could be they use different model. Model A, model B, C, D, and E. At least they will list out. Model A, this person. Model B, this person. At least for me, as the reader, so it's easier for us to read and to do conclusion. Please stop me if I'm over time. I do not. Oh, so sorry. I'm so sorry. Actually, I have time's up. 10 already. I'm so sorry. Okay, so I go faster. Sorry. So next. Okay. Then after that, seminal works in literature are not included. Okay. A related theory, some of the important theories, okay, they left it out. Okay. For example, let's say you're doing intentional studies. All right. So if you're doing in the area of marketing, let's say you're doing in the area of consumer attitudes. Let's say in the area of marketing, there's so many areas, you see. So let's say you're doing in consumer behavior, and you zoom down, you want to study human consumer personality. Okay, let's say your study talk about consumer personality. So the basic theories that you should have is psychoanalytic theory, you should have Jungian theory, you must have Skinnian theory, you must have the different type of consumer personality theories. Those are the fundamental of the research that you must have the fundamental theory, it would be. You see? So without the fundamental, in Chinese we have to always remember the other people's contribution. Okay? And also, some of the students that always come and ask me, how do I write literature review? What is literature review? I always explain to my students, literature review is just like when you meet your old friend. If you didn't meet your old friend for 20 years, how would you update them? The objective of the literature review is for you to update your friend, update the reader what is happening in your field. So when you do the update, you are telling stories. So you're able to let people to see what is happening. So of course, everything must be geared with a theory. Then the next thing that I fall to the research design. Some of the students cannot differentiate whether should I do quantitative or qualitative study. For example, right, okay, they can come out this kind of questionnaire. Very interesting. And I'm a critical person. I will ask, okay, how do you, would you purchase the product if the quality increases? Totally agree. Totally agree. Totally disagree. They give me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'll ask them questions. Why do you use 7 scale, not 6 scale? First thing. Then, how do you differentiate? How 6 and 7? How do you differentiate? So all these are, if you are ready to do quantitative, so all these are, you have to sit down with your supervisor to sort out all these kind of small things. Make sure that your supervisor you have to discuss with the supervisor how to answer this kind of question. Of course, you have to read, not you throw back to the supervisor the answer, or else my student will throw it back to me, then I die. Because some of them are here. So dangerous. So you have to read first, how do you justify? For example, nowadays, it's not only the qualitative is become more and more important. That's why I always encourage my students to use a mixed method. All right? So what is the beauty of mixed method? It would be, I do not say compulsory to use a mixed method, which is mixed method is more powerful and also more comprehensive. Okay? I've seen a lot of studies, they use, some of them, they will start with the qualitative, then followed by quantitative. I've seen that before, which is they use qualitative to do focus group, that the variables, construct the instrument, run the pilot test, then to do the readability and validity, then after that use a questionnaire and publish it. So yes, it can be done. All right. Then for PhD, and there's another popular question, research design. They ask me, is it a must to do SEM? You know what is? How many of you do not know what is called SEM? Oh, everybody knows? Very good. Okay. Okay, very good, very good. Okay, so is it a must to use SEM? Answer, yes or no? Not necessary. Depends on the objective, of course. If your objective is to explore one of the exact objective, let's say explore, okay, the keyword explore, then you use SEM would not serve the objective. That's why you have to sit with your supervisor to find out what is the right statistic analysis. It would be over there. So the research design, you have to explain whether you want to use quanti or quali. In case quali, you're not doing generalization. All right. In case quanti is meant for you to do the hypothesis testing. Okay. One is called. There's two. If you look at the theoretical, the background of the quali and also the quantitative research. Okay. Because I published one book for my own university for UPM under UPM publication. It's a joint publication for research method for quanti and quali to be used by the postgraduate. I'm not promoting my book, but you only can get it in UPM publication bookstore. Okay, so in that particular book, I do a comparison between, usually the first thing is comparison between quali and quanti, what are the differences, at least student knows what are the differences. But to apply to your study, so please sit down with your supervisor, then after that, you're able to see whether you would like to go ahead with your quali and quanti. The reason why, because for quali, remember, what are the instruments? What would be the instrument? You yourself is the instrument. All right. If you don't have the good talking skill, okay, for example, if I'm the introvert, not linked to the personality of the researcher. If I'm an introvert person, okay, let's say I conduct one in-depth interview. Do you know what's in-depth interview, right? After I ask you one question, then ask more and more questions. For example, my research, I'm interested to see intention to purchase coffee. Example, if I use quanti, okay, very simple, which is I will come up with a hypothesis. There is a relationship between the price of the coffee and your intention to purchase. Okay, example, I want to test this hypothesis, a very fast one, very direct one, okay? Then I was going to ask you, okay, if the coffee, in the questionnaire, if the coffee price range this amount, would you, the 7, I will buy totally. I will agree to buy totally. 0, I will not buy totally. Finish. I just throw the question to you, then after you fill in, the research, the sample fill in. Finish. Am I right? But if I use qualitative, then I have to start talking to you. Okay, what do you think about the price of the coffee that you would pay? You're willing to pay. Then after that, I will ask, okay, from the price that I'll put more question, until the data become saturated. Am I right? Okay, then you move on to the next study. All right? Okay, for example, I joined one of the lecturers in UKM to run a phenomenon study among orang asli. Ooh, interesting. You will learn a lot of things. If you join, I've experienced of joining. It's a phenomenon study, meaning that to study the culture and also the lifestyle, how they in that particular village. For example, recently I have another research which is in the area of lie detection. Okay, in the Malaysia prison. Okay, in among the prisoners, because prisoners are the best person to deceive you. so the sample selection, we use quali, right? It's very selective. For sure, it's called non-probability sampling. Okay, then after that, the examiner will ask you, why do you use non-purposive sampling? Because for me, I want to get the right and also the highest quality of answer. Remember that. Then later on, I'll ask you back. Okay, so that's why you must be able to answer your examiner. Why do you do that? Actually, they already have an answer, just to test you whether you know it or do not know it. Okay, you see? So that's why communicate more with your supervisor. Ask them to ask you more questions, then you're able to improve it yourself. That's why when I did my PhD, every time when I see my supervisor, I come back with 1,000 of questions. Okay, so in case, be careful, yeah. If every time when you see your supervisor say, no problem, this one can, then you're in danger. You really have problem. Be careful. So you have to identify whether you want to use quanti or quali or experimental research, of course, based on the time allocated and the resources that you have as well to determine the whole research to be done. For example, recently, one of my students was suggested by another faculty of the person to capture the whole teenager in China. And I asked my student, you have to justify, do you have such a resource, and also this duration of time, how many years that you want to complete your PhD? So they are just only giving you a suggestion. Doesn't mean you have to justify, because remember, you're the subject expert. Of course, we'll try to see what are the possibility of it, whether how is your face validity, internal validity, reliability, everything. We try to foresee what could be the possibility it would be. Then, of course, the next common one, there's no link between the literature review and also the research framework. That's why I always encourage my student, okay, not compulsory, maybe it's my style and also the panel style, which is for UPM panel style. We would like the student to come, before they start writing literature, right? So they come at the skeleton, how is the flow first, before giving the content inside. At least if the skeleton is right, so higher possibility for your write-up also would be correct. If your skeleton, your house skeleton not strong enough, what will happen? Collapse. So that's why literature review, theoretical framework, very, very, very important. Okay, then after that, the next one is the theoretical support for the research framework is really weak. So another possibility it would be. And the phenomenon and the study of the dependent variables also very weak. Okay, so that's why you try to look into different areas that it would be. All right. Okay, for example, let's say, now one of the current, let's say, this is not the current issue, I'm just create one scenario only. Okay, let's say Malaysia do not want to drink coffee because of the price of coffee increases. Let's say, all right? So there's one of the marketing problem, let's say. People don't want to buy, no intention to purchase, all right? So what is it? Phenomenon. Okay, then after that, in my study, the framework, you know the price, right? Yeah. In your framework, you do not even mention any elements of price. Yeah. You go and study, I do not know, maybe the taste, maybe the packaging, maybe the branding, maybe the other factors. But in your needs of study, everything you talk about, price increases. Price is a factor. Okay, so that's why you couldn't link. It could be the literature review. You mention a lot of variables, but the variables that you mention in literature review, isn't it? It does not reflect well as the structure of your framework. Of course, the next one, define the variables. I questioned one of the students. Okay, they said, why generation? What do you mean by why generation? Because the keyword why generation is quite ambiguous. You understand what I'm trying to say? Let's say you say you want to do a research among Petronas employee. What do you mean by Petronas employee? Is it direct Petronas? Is it subsidiary included? Or what do you mean? Okay, see, operation definition is very important to gear your studies, all right? So that's why you have to define the variables very well. For example, let's say you want to study attitudes. The keyword, let's say you want to study attitude. What do you mean by attitudes? Are you going to study about the favorable or unfavorable? Is it going to study about the feeling towards it? Are you going to talk about the perception towards it? Are you going to talk about the personality of it? What are the areas that you're going to look into? You have to define that before you start your research, or else the reader of your thesis would have difficulties to understand what actually you are trying to measure. You have to give them a very brief idea what is your title is about. Okay, so variables. And of course, you have to tell why these variables one by one is very, very important. For example, okay, for Leow, he would like to do on the entrepreneurship. Okay, then I will justify why you want to do entrepreneurship. Why you are looking into the Bhumiputra entrepreneurship? What is the problem for Bhumiputra entrepreneurship? So you have to answer why in your needs of study, or else you're not able to justify why. Because in the future, you answer, the more question that we quote, when you answer, each of the statement that you write is actually answering certain questions. As simple as that. Okay? Then the next one is, of course, the measurement of your variables. Okay? How are you going to measure it? That's very fantastic. A lot of students, right, they have fantastic model. When I ask them how to measure, okay, what are you going to evaluate? Don't know. Okay, I don't know. Can you imagine that, for example, let's say, all right, they would like to measure perception. Which skill are you are you going to measure perception? Let's say quantity. Okay, not sure yet. Or even though after finish during YY, we ask them, why do you use this skill, not that another skill? Okay, cannot